3.5 a week isn't enough. He wants the whole room.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Auburn. I'm Zach Blackerby. He is Christian Rao over at the Barn, auburn.com. He also writes at auburndaily.com. Christian, we've heard a bunch of different numbers as we react to kind of the running backs media stuff that we got this afternoon. Golish says 3.5 running backs going into the week. Coach Gordon quickly said, I'd like the full 4 each week. Coach Porter today says, no. I want the whole room ready each and every week. So I joke with this. Everybody has the same messaging on the staff. This is the one thing where there's some disagreement on, which is I'm poking fun, but he went into this deep thing about how he coaches everybody in that running back room the same. And I think that's the whole point of coaching, right? Is you need to make everyone in that room better. And I love that responsibility that Coach Porter has when talking about what he needs to do for this Auburn running back room.
Yeah, the exact quote was, you got to coach the guy at the bottom of the roster just as hard as you coach the guy at the top of the roster. And I couldn't agree more, especially now with this new 5-for-5 coming where you don't have the red shirts anymore. You have the opportunity to allow everybody to play. Now we'll see what happens with, traveling, who travels with the teams at certain times, but regardless, you still have more opportunities to get people involved in there. And he mentioned it, and we all know it's true. Injuries can happen. Roles obviously change. We saw roles change with the running back room last year when Jeremiah Cobb took really over more in the second half of the year. So this is a really good thing for Larry Porter to bring this up, that he's willing to coach the entire room. And it's already a deep room as it is. Now he wants it even deeper.
Right. I mean, especially as we're seeing like Alvin Henderson kind of rotate earlier in, like, I don't think he's ahead of Nakai Davenport. I do think a battle between Alvin and Tay Meadows is fascinating. Like, if you had me guess who gets more snaps this season, I'd have a hard time answering that question. But the fact of the matter is, like, this is a super deep room. And there are aspects of the room's depth where we don't really know what it looks like. He was asked about Bryson Washington, and I think you described it as careful. His response is careful. Christian, is that correct?
Yeah, he was very careful the way he worded the things about Bryson Washington. The media asked him, like, okay, we haven't heard much about him. Obviously, what's going on with him. And he just kind of took it back and said, well, he was injured, like tried to, I don't want to say use the word excuses, but he tried to set it up to be very careful with his answers about Bryson Washington. So I don't know if that gives me the warm and fuzzy about it, but we've been kind of already putting ourselves towards that, where Mapson is taking over as the true number 2. And we might have to wait a little bit longer for Bryson Washington to be an impact on this running back room, because what we've heard from spring and things like that is he wasn't ready and wasn't in game shape for this new tempo of offense.
He had the chance to say, hey, yo, Bryson Washington's good.
He didn't. That's true.
He didn't do it.
Careful was the words that I put it out, but also you're right. He didn't give you anything to write home about either.
He could have said he's been hurt and so it took him a minute to get going, but we can't wait to get him to be a part of this offense. And he didn't. And when you heard his question, he got asked a bunch of questions about Jeremiah Cobb. Expect a lot of Jeremiah Cobb stories to be written over the next few days, because there were a lot of good quotes about Jeremiah. And, the way he talks about Omar, then the way he talked about Bryson, like, I don't think it was the same.
He even spoke pretty highly of Alvin Henderson. It just wasn't as much as the running back room, but as he is trying to find his path on the special teams side, I like his mentality of how he called it the bus ticket mentality. How if you want a bus ticket, you got to fight for that every single day. You have to get yourself on there. And with a room that is as deep as this running back room is, if you want to show that you are setting yourself to the standards, this new identity of this team, you have to fight everywhere. And special teams is a great place for a younger running back that might be buried in the depth chart to make a name for himself. I think that's where we're going to see Alvin Henderson shine potentially for Auburn, at least early in the season.
Omar Mabson spoke to the media. I don't think he said anything groundbreaking, but I do think this could be, the next step of some like long-term big picture implications when you talk about him and the Auburn Tigers. And I want to jump into that in just a moment, right here on Locked on Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at Odoo. Running a business shouldn't feel like you're trying to connect a bunch of different systems that were never designed to work together. One app for accounting, another for inventory, another for sales, and somehow none of them talk to each other. That's where Odoo comes in. Odoo is an all-in-one business management software that brings every part of your business together in one powerful platform. From sales and accounting to inventory and marketing, everything works in one place, helping your team move faster. Great organizations win because operations matter, and that's why you should get Odoo. Try for free today. odoo.com/locked-on. That is odoo.com/locked-on. Today's show also brought to you by our friends at Indeed. Christian, can you imagine hiring somebody and not using Indeed?
No, I wouldn't even want to try. Why? Why try when you can get the standard?
Be a waste of time. That's for sure. Indeed gets you qualified candidates, and they do it quickly. And you don't have to filter through all the applicants. Indeed says, hey, we've got the technology. These are the few people you need to talk to, interview them. And if you got an issue, come back to us. We'll give you more. And they just nail it. They nail it every single time. Listeners of this show can get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job that premium status it deserves over at indeed.com/podcast. All right, just a few more minutes on this quick bonus edition of Locked on Auburn. Zach, Christian, here with you. I think Omar Mabson could be like one of the faces of Auburn football as soon as next year. Some of it depends on what happens with Jeremiah Cobb and eligibility. He could come back. But man, I just think the way this kid operates, the way that he just has a knack for understanding the moment that he's in and the lights that he's under. And I guess almost like a combination of like being so appreciative of it and also like aware of what it is. I think he's going to be like a very clear and evident fan favorite for a long time, even as RB2 this year. And we'll see if he's RB2 or RB1 next year, depending on circumstances. But seeing him yesterday is just like, no, this is a future face of Auburn football.
He's progressing at all the right things at all the right time, in my opinion.
Sure.
And his development is handling at the right spot. And you said next year where he could be one of the faces of Auburn. I think this has nothing to do with Jeremiah Cobb. I think he has a great year, but I think it could happen as early as this year too, in the second half, where maybe two running backs go off and Mabson could really step up. That wouldn't shock me in the slightest. You mentioned that there was a couple things he said during his media availability. It wasn't a world ending kind of conversation or anything to break the bank on, but there was a few nuggets that I thought were fascinating. One, you got to talk to him right after the first day of practice and pads, which we know Mabson is he's a big dude. It's exciting to watch him play, and you can just see the excitement, the energy coming from him after he got to do that. And one thing when he was talking about how he was increasing his game, how he wanted to improve his game, the first thing that came to his mind was pass protection. How much have we heard the coaches want to make that a priority? And that is the thing he feels like he's improved on the best. That's a best of both worlds situation right there. A perfect fit. So I love it.
Yeah. And I think that's probably the weakness in the room based on last year. And look, I'm sure they've told him that a million times. He's aware. He's like a super savvy and smart kid. He understands that's how we can get onto the field, and that's how we can help this team, as well as, those hard runs in between the tackles as well too. So I think Omar Mabson could be an absolute stud. And look, yeah, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Next year might be too conservative. I think you could absolutely see the fan base rallying behind Cobb and Omar as like the 1-2 punch, as well as Byram. And then we'll see when Davenport and Washington and Henderson and Meadows get sprinkled in there. But this should be an awesome rushing attack. And yeah, any great rushing attack has more than one threat. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, would you rather have just a true number one, a Jeremiah Cobb that leads the SEC in rushing, or would you rather have a consistent 1A, 1B maybe towards the end of the season, where maybe Cobb doesn't finish first in the SEC, maybe he finishes third, but you see Mabson arrive on scene? I'm going to personally take option B.
Yeah, or the difference is Byram's a threat to run for 600 plus, 800 plus. Maybe he crosses 1,000. We'll see. But I'm curious, like, could if Cobb could lead the SEC in rushing, like was a true one, and you had Byram that was also, a threat to run, and I'd probably take that. But
yeah, fair. Okay.
I don't think that's what we're going to see. I think we're going to see both of them be pretty even.
Porter said this on Maps, and he said, quote, "There's no days off. There's no plays off." I can't wait to see. We've seen this in other position groups where start of fall camp. The Sean Spencer is one that comes to my mind as well. Obviously, they reward people for their play and their performance and their hard work and their leadership and things like that. Because you're hearing Porter talk about there's no days off, no plays off from Mapson in fall camp, I think you will see him with a pretty decent workload in that Baylor game.
Yeah. Christian, how can people check out everything you've got going on?
Over at the Barn Auburn is where you can find me, as well as my written work on auburndaily.com.
Please like the video. Please subscribe. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked on Auburn.